have to use your big
Yes.
voice.
Hello, everybody.
Use that theater voice.
Welcome. My name is Tara Jabari. I'm a board member for Women in Film and Video of Washington, D.C., and I'm the chairperson for the Strategic Communications Committee, which organized this event. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. And I wanted to thank our wonderful partners at DCTV.
Yay!
They've been wonderful, and they've offered nice discounts on our chairs, so take advantage. I'd also like to recognize our other board members who have generously contributed their time, resources, and support for the organization. Please let me invite the board members to raise their hands to say hi and this month concludes the 45th anniversary year of Women in Film and Video of Washington, D.C. In honor of this momentous year, we have planned a series of panels to share our members' work and discuss important issues that concern media now and in the future. To begin, let's share a clip that will set the tone for tonight, one which highlights the theme for the entire panel. So if we can, please.
We can turn the world on with a smile. We can take a nothing day and suddenly make it all seem worthwhile. Well, it's you, girl, and you should know it. With each glance and every little movement you show it. Love is all around, no need to waste it. You can have it down, why don't you take it? You're gonna make it after all. You're gonna make it after all.
So that, of course.
All right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows
That's
were
the next
so
video. Well, we'll find out. It's not illegal to do. It's the previous clip was the iconic opening for the TV show, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, that aired from 1970 to 1977 on CBS. But why did we show this clip? Well, you're here for our fourth and final panel, Protecting the Gains Women Have Made, where we are so lucky to have these extraordinary women to share their work, their journey, as well as how we can ensure that underrepresented voices will continue to be heard. So let me give a quick introduction to our wonderful panelists. Joining us virtually is one of the Mary Tyler Moore Show's directors and the first woman ever to be nominated for an Emmy for television direction, Joan Darling. She was nominated 4 times, winning both the Emmy and the DGA award, and is considered the first woman director of the modern age. She directed the Chuckles Bites the Dust episode of Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was named the #1 TV episode of all time by TV Guide, and the funniest episode ever on TV by the New York Times. Joan created the Directing the Actor workshop for the Sundance Institute and has taught directing at the Sundance Lab for over 30 years. Thank you, Joan, for joining us. Next, we have Dr. Sheila Brooks. She's an accomplished entrepreneur, author, Emmy-award winning journalist, and expert in marketing, media, communications, and public relations. She is the founder, president, and CEO of SRB Communications, which specializes in creating and executing brand awareness, outreach, and public education campaigns. In her storied career, she has received some of the most prestigious awards and recognition in the industry. Among them are 2 Emmys, and the Washington Association of Black Journalists created the Dr. Sheila Brooks Community Impact Award, presented each year to a local business leader or organization that demonstrates an outstanding dedication to community service. Thank you for Dr. Debbie Greensfelder is the founder and CEO of Every Woman Studios, a full-service media company with a mission to tell female-focused and driven stories, creating positive cultural impact. It was founded to address the massive gender gap in the media ecosystem via high-quality and commercial content. The company's first feature documentary, LFG, chronicles the U.S. women's national soccer team's fight for equal pay. She was also the co-founder for Half Yard Productions, an award-winning production company that specializes in nonfiction series and documentaries, including the global hit franchise Say Yes to the Dress for TLC.
Yes.
How the States Got Their Shapes for History, and the critically acclaimed The Last Alaskans for Discovery. Welcome, Megan Polly was named one of Variety's 10 screenwriters to watch in 2005. Her screenplay, Sunshine Cleaning, was made into a feature film starring Amy Adams, Emily Blunt, and Alan Arkin, and it was screened at the Sundance Film Festival in 2008. She is based in Richmond, Virginia, and continues writing for features and television. Welcome, Megan. Judy Woodruff is senior correspondent, former anchor, and managing editor for the PBS News Anchor. Unfortunately, Judy is not here tonight due to a news anchor scheduling conflict out of town. She extends her disappointment and apologies for her absence. Now, the last but not least, our moderator for tonight is Connie St. John, who has been in the industry executive for more than 30 years. She began her entertainment career in publicity at Columbia TriStar Television in Los Angeles, then joined Turner Broadcasting System Incorporated in Atlanta, then Harpo Productions, managing PR for Oprah Winfrey. In 1999, Connie founded her production company No Weapon Productions, which produces family-friendly entertainment for the screen and stage. Connie has written and produced more than 100 stage plays and skits, and her first short film, The Message, screened at the Cannes Film Festival. Connie returned to Washington, D.C. in 2019 and established the consulting company, the St. John Consulting Group, through which she works with cultural influencers. Please welcome Connie St. John.
Oh my goodness, I get to be up here with these ladies. Yes, I know, this is so exciting. This is so exciting. You know, we're here to talk about protecting me and my pins. I'm sorry.
You don't need it.
I don't need it.
She
You can just
doesn't
hold
need
on
it.
to it, Manda. Thank you.
Here, I'll hold.
Yes.
Okay, no.
Okay.
It's a woman helping another. I'm here for you with a pen.
Thank you. So we have so many questions for you because all of you are, you're not just trailblazers. You've broken so many ceilings. You've inspired so many people, even in this room, for the work that they know of and the work they don't know about. And so, you know, in this time, this age, as gains are being, there's an attempt to roll them back, right? We'll say that nicely.
Yeah.
We're talking about how do we protect those gains. But before we talk about that, because that's when we get into the heart of the conversation, the first thing I want to know, I mean, I've read your bios, I've gotten to meet all of you, I've met you before, and our paths have crossed for 100 years, and I get to know Megan now. I didn't know her before. Joan, you know, I've known of you for years. And so my question, with the storied careers all of you have had, and this question is for all of you, what particular career accomplishment are you most proud of?
You're looking at me like.
Joan said she'll answer
get her
first.
started.
I know. Okay, Joan.
Okay, because it's so, I noticed it about 2 years ago, and it was so remarkable. What happened, I won't go into the beginning of my career, but when I had done Mary Hartman, the Directors Guild called me and asked me would I like a card. And I said, no, I'm an actress. I could be doing this. And he was really appalled and maybe a little frightened. But what happened was I almost simultaneously got an offer from Mary Tyler Moore Company, which had seen the pilots for Mary Hartman, and they offered me a whole season. And I remember standing there with a phone in my hand and saying to myself, well, yeah, but I'm an actress, that's what and then I went, wait a minute. There's no woman directing right now, and the reason why men think they can't direct is utterly stupid. And so I said, I'm gonna go do it for 1 year to establish, and then I'll come back to my acting career, and that'll be great. And what happened was, the two shows, the first two that I mentioned, both Mary Hartman and Mary Tyler Moore made a huge splash. But the thing that I love about that is when that happened, a huge splash, and then I started working all over the place. I was the only woman at that time teaching directing. And so a lot of the women who really wanted to be directors would show up in my class. And I remember Leslie Lincoln Glatter, who you all know from town and everything else, walked into my class, and what she said to me later was, I walked into your class and my life changed. Now, it's, I don't know what, maybe 40 years later, and Leslie Lincoln Glass is the president of the Directors Guild.
Wow.
And for me, when I think about how much land was crossed, not just by Leslie, but ultimately, I remember sitting forever, endlessly watching television, and of course this was nice, the only woman's name I saw was mine. But now there's women all over the place, doing all kinds of things. Directing adventures, directing murder mysteries, directing. So that, I think, my proudest accomplishment is within my lifetime, from my teaching and my having the courage to go ahead. I don't know if I can do it or not, which I really didn't. I never studied it or anything, but to decide to go ahead and do it. And then when I realized there was an opportunity to say, women can direct it, here I am. That I decided to do that, and I don't know, it took 15 years before I went back to acting. But as I say, my proudest moment in my heart is that length of time. Within that short length of time, we went from, no women directors, nobody having a card, and Leslie making it all the way to being the president of the Directors Guild.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
All right, Abby. Okay, well, from the sublime to the mundane. I mean, it's a good question, and I love that answer, because it is an amazing frame to put on the trajectory that the changes in a very short period of time. I think my proudest moment similarly comes from kind of an act of courage, or maybe two similar, in that in my career, I really forged the first chunk of my career at Discovery, nearby, local. And I was an executive there running programming, which is, kind of the head content position. And I always thought I'd be a big company person. My trajectory, I went to business school, I came back. I kind of thought I'd run a big company. That was what had my eyesight on. But along the way, actually, my boss at the time, I was pregnant, and I came back from maternity leave, and I had negotiated a flexible work schedule. And I was sort of the senior-most person, as it turned out, that had done such a thing. I was the card-carrying leader of the women's leadership group at the company and all this stuff. Company got all these awards for being great for women, and then when the proverbial shit hit the fan, sorry for my French, but the company was in tough position. It was about to go public, and my boss has said to me, sorry, we know that we said you could have this flexible schedule, but you need to come back to the office early from your maternity leave and come back full time. And in that moment, I decided, I'm out. And that was the impetus to start my own company. And I think I'm proudest of that because, you know, I took a risk. It would have been easier to stay in my kind of cushy corporate job. And I think that trajectory was kind of more of a known one. But I ended up instinctually in that making a very intuitive choice, much like you just talked about, kind of the inner courage to say, like, I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to take myself out of my comfort zone. I went to my longtime creative collaborator at Discovery and said, we're going to start our own business. And that's what we did, and that was Half Yard Productions. And little did I know we would have all the success. We sold the business. And then when I got cushy again, I took another leap of faith and said, I'm going to go out and do it again. And that was Every Woman Studios. Different reason, but I think I'm proud that I took those tough choices that were very true to myself for reasons that were about creating my own vision of what success looked like, which for me was being a mom, a successful executive, being somebody who was like present in my family and having a career in the way that I wanted. And I'm proud that in doing that, I think I modeled that for all the people that worked for me, men and women, in the companies that I've run. So I think I'm proud of that.
That's wonderful. Setting standards, breaking ceilings and traditions. You know, they say we can't do this, and then you take a risk and you use that courage. Dr. Brooks.
Well, I think I have a similar story. It sounds like that we do. And it's, you know, I spent a lot of years in television news as an anchor, a reporter, and every time I made that move up, you think that, oh, I'm so proud of that accomplishment. But I've always wanted to be in control of my own destiny. I've always wanted to be the owner. And it comes from, and I was the first in my family to go to college and just had all these aspirations and thought that being in television news, that was the end all at that point. And it wasn't. And it wasn't until I moved off the air into a management job in the nation's capital, moved here from Dallas to the nation's capital in the 80s, late 80s, and became an executive producer of one of the local television stations, running the documentary unit. And I thought that was it. That was, I had made it. I'd hit the, you know, I had not hit the glass ceiling yet. I'd moved from on the air into management. I'd done something that no one in my family or in my community had done. But the day came that someone I trained was about to become my boss. And I had to make a decision, and I made 3 phone calls. One to, some of you know her, my dear longtime friend Maureen Bunyan, a mentor who was the owner of a television station in Boston, and my husband, of course. Because that day I quit, and I left the station, and I started the then SRB Productions, which over the years evolved into SRB Communications. So for me, it was hitting that glass ceiling and saying, you know, I can do this on my own, do a better job of it, create opportunities for young people and others, contribute to the community, and certainly build a viable company. And we just celebrated 35 years in business. With 14 employees and in downtown Washington, D.C., and we've transitioned from being a production company to a boutique marketing, advertising, PR firm, but still do some productions, you know, TV spots, radio spots, those kinds of things.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Megan.
Proudest
Career.
career.
Accomplishment. Yes.
All right. You know, it's interesting. It's hard for me to pinpoint, like, oh, this is my proudest moment. I feel like, you know, as a screenwriter, you have to celebrate. It's such a tough industry, and you kind of have to like really celebrate each minor win, you know. And I feel like I was probably just as proud of like, oh, winning that contest, getting into that small regional film festival, as like, you know, and then it's the next thing, and then like, oh, I'm so proud of that. Oh, I landed this whatever open writing assignment or whatever. I will say my first job, like getting paid for it, you know,
Right.
was like,
We all understand that.
I remember it was, you know, before Sunshine Cleaning had, you know, that was actually took many years, 5 years for it ultimately to get made. But I landed my first kind of studio assignment, and that feeling of like, oh my God, somebody's gonna pay me to write a story. And I floated around on that feeling for a really long time, and I still, like, when I get jaded and when I get like, you know, whatever is, you know, I'm dealing with, I try to go back to that moment where I was like, I am a screenwriter, you know, and relive that again. So.
Yeah, I understand. I just an easy answer for all of you. Were you aware that you were breaking glass ceilings when you did it? Were you consciously aware of it, or is it only in hindsight that you can tell you broke glass ceilings?
Hindsight for me.
I was aware of it.
You were aware of it.
My attitude, I think, is one of the reasons why I was able to be so successful, and also to help other women make their way into the business, which is I just never bought any of the nonsense. I didn't buy the glass ceiling. I'm not saying I didn't think it was there,
Right.
but I didn't care. It had nothing to do with me and what my heart and soul wanted to do. And so I simply went ahead as an artist, you know, where I was very lucky. I had 2 older brothers who used to try to beat me up all the time. So I learned how to deal with men. I never took seriously what my husband so aptly calls clumsy flirting. If a man says something really stupid to you, if a guy whistled at me walking by a construction site, my response was thank you. And I also have I'm very playful, and when situations came up where I was being challenged, I knew that I would never get into a power struggle, but I also knew I would always win. And what I went for was my sense of humor, and also having taught so many actors and loving acting as I did, I really felt it was important not to humiliate an actor or actually humiliate anybody on my set. Any set that I worked on was my family, and I learned to meet them all and to love them and to work with them, and we were a party doing it. And so for me, I had my own set of standards, and I had the blessing of God, because she decided that Norman Lear should tell me that I was a director and give me Mary Hartman. But I just believe that I can't be fat shamed unless I am fat and ashamed of it. If somebody says to me, oh, you're fat, I could, depending on me, I could say, yeah, boy, I had to work so hard. And it's that kind of thing that I believe is that what this subject is it is so important for us to pass on to them the idea that the glass ceiling is something that somebody made up, and that if you choose to do something you love, and that you make yourself the best at it that you can be. Listen to how many of you say, so I ended up with my own company.
Right. Yeah. I know.
And, and if a guy wants to be a jerk, he wants to be a jerk. can tell you a bunch of stories, but one of my favorites is, you know who Tom Shulman is, who wrote Dead Poets Society and What About Bob? He was directing a movie with Joe Pesci, who I had not yet met, and he called me up and he said, Joe is being just horrible. I can't do anything with him. What should I do? And I said, well, what I would do is when he came in the morning, I would very pleasantly say, good morning, Joe. And when he left at night, I would very pleasantly say, good evening, Joe. But not one word to him during the day. Nothing. Took 2 days, and he was like a horse. Hey, are you getting what you want from me? And I really feel, and when I teach, I try to teach this to our children, that you exist as a person, and what you're doing, the reason for doing it is because nothing feels better than doing that. And you get to choose. You get to choose how you want to do it. And God knows, with a little iPhone, you can make, 10 movies a week if you want. So I really do. Maybe choppy ones, but they were good. I really do believe that having a sense of humor, not buying the glass ceiling. I just don't buy it. I just never have. I played football, and I figured out how to trip somebody because the boys would let me play if I could tackle somebody. And it was just anything that appealed to me in a way of being alive. And that's why I want to say again, I listen to you guys, I think you're dealing with a much harder part of the activity than I was. Because if I could deliver the show, when the show came on the air, nobody paid any attention. You had to be out in the world all the time with a bunch of idiot men. But I don't bother.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. It's interesting. I know that that you said, Abby, that you recognized it in hindsight. That in the moment you didn't feel like, oh, here's a glass ceiling, I'm breaking through it right this moment. But there had to be challenges along the way where you felt like you were pushing against that. So
the thing is, because of my learning to deal with my brothers, I really do believe that. No, I never felt it. I didn't say, oh, I'm being turned down because I'm a woman. And if I did feel that, I thought the guy was a jerk and went on to find someone who wasn't a jerk.
Yeah. What about the rest of you ladies?
I did feel and knew that I had hit that glass ceiling. And it was in that job that where I had a boss who was a woman, who was also number 2 in the newsroom. I was number 3. And when someone gets passed over 3 or 4 times for the top job, then you know you're not going to get the other job,
right?
Her job. So I said, the first time, okay. The second time, well, something's wrong here. And after I saw that she got passed over for the top job in the newsroom as a news director, it was time to go. It was time to go and just make it on my own and start my own business.
How do you, in those situations, unfortunately, there's so many stereotypes with women, with black women, minority women, when you push back and they label you because you're pushing back on a ceiling or on a disparity. How do you handle that? What is your word of wisdom to the people in the audience who might have that same situation where they have to push back on that kind of thing? What did you do in a specific situation? What's your strategy if you come up against that? Because even as a business owner, we do. We walk in the room. Yeah. I remember walking in and I had a white female assistant, and they said to my assistant, oh, you must be Connie St. John. You must be the boss. That's right. Every time. Yep. Every time. And she soaked it up. And I said, no, I'm actually, oh, so then this is your boss? No. No, it's not. What do you do? What were those situations like for you all? How do you handle those? What's your go-to in that situation?
I think that I was going to say for me, interestingly, the story I told about sort of my proudest starting this, sort of going out on my own, right, having the courage. One of the things I found around that, both times I did it, was surprise and a sense that people were underestimating me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I used that, maybe not in a calculating way, but I sort of registered it, like noted. My then boss at Discovery, because I was leaving with a male colleague to start this business, and he had wanted us not to twin our announcements because it would have looked bad for the company if we were leaving together. So he went to the guy and said, hey, we're going to announce you first and Abby later. And I said, oh no. Luckily, my partner, who's was just a longtime collaborator, dear friend, you know, we were, of course, in it together, but I also said, in that moment, I realized, I registered, which was underestimating me. And then I said, no. Our leverage, of course, was in us leaving together. And when we did that, we were able to extract a big output deal from Discovery, which we had not decided on. You know, we started the company with or without any business. Mm-hmm. But by agreeing to be exclusive with Discovery for the first 18 months of our company, it set up our company for success because we could take that we had like 30 hours of shows that we were committed to produce for the first 18 months of our company. So we didn't have to focus on selling. Mm-hmm. We could just focus on developing for Discovery. So, but what was key there was me understanding everyone's motivations, how they were underestimating me, and how I could use it to my benefit. Mm-hmm. So yes. Like the best class I took in business school was this negotiation class, and the professor laid out this matrix, and I use it for every difficult negotiation. I did the same thing when I exited my last company. Same thing, people underestimated me because they said I had a 1-year non-compete, and everyone, when I told them I wanted to do something for women, they were like, oh, leave it to Abby to do a nonprofit. I was like, oh, it's not a nonprofit. Just because it's for women.
Right.
You know? Mm-hmm. And so I ended up finding a loophole in my deal to get out early, still get my earn out, and make a feature doc, because that was a carve out of my film. So yes. It's like, I think sometimes the underestimation
can work in our favor.
You can kind of, if you listen, pay attention to the messages people are telling you, file it away, and then build your kind of, use that as leverage in whatever way that you can to achieve the goals that you want for your own self in whatever way that you want. That's how I have, looking back, learned to take moments like that and use it for my own benefit to achieve my goals.
Yeah, that's excellent. Dr. Brooks?
Meet the challenge, you know, face to face, meet it head on. Abby described it very well. When I've been in those kinds of situations, I kind of try to turn the tables, kill them with kindness, give them a little bit more respect, show them what I can do, and then show them those results and outcomes, because that's what's going to make you stand out and be even more successful.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Mm-hmm. Megan, do you have anything?
I mean, I'm just soaking up some knowledge. Frankly,
I'm gonna need that pin back.
I know.
I got it. Also, one of the important things is not to be afraid of your boss, male or female. If your boss says something to you, I went through a thing with Norman on Very Hartman, where the way I worked, the actors invented so many things, and the show was a big hit, but the writers were furious because we weren't doing the show they wrote. Louise was a major good writer and fixed the shows as we went along. And at one point, Norman took us out to dinner, Louise and I, and said, you know, you can't do these things that are so crazy where he hands her the gun and she gives him the water and then they hand it back and forth. He says, those are violations. So I said, well, okay, Norman, I'll tell you what I'll do. Every time I commit a violation, send me a $15 fine. And then he just like stared at me. Then what happened was we invented a joke on the set. And this is where I feel that the way my brain is set up is so helpful to me in these circumstances, because I called him and I said, Norman, I'm on the set. We're working on a scene. We just invented a great joke, but I need a decision from you. Do you want me to do the show the way it's written, or do you want me to do the show the way I've been doing it? And there was a silence, like a 18-wheeler going through the phone. And he thought about it and he said, keep doing what you're doing. And I feel that my ability to say the truth of what the situation was, and in that case, I didn't have any contempt for Norman. We just had an artistic disagreement. I didn't say, well, this man is trying to run the show or anything like that. I just felt like I had a big argument on Phyllis, where the producer wanted Phyllis to slap someone, and I didn't want her to do that. I didn't think that was right for her character. And we argued about it, and he insisted it be done that way. His show, his money, he did it that way. But about 2 days later, he offered me to be the showrunner. And I don't think I think it's because he knew I would be present, not just trying to get along.
Right, right. Thank you, Joan. We talked at the beginning, this is what we're here to talk about, is the efforts to erase women's achievements in everything, in museums, in schools, in history. Do you think it will be successful? And if so, how do we combat that attack?
I could say that I really don't, from a black woman perspective, think it will be, and I say that because for black women, it's the intersection of race and gender. And we have been fighting the good fight for a very long time. I grew up in the 1960s, and I was, a part of all of that movement. And that movement was much like what's happening now. Now, this seems to be a lot worse, but we've been here before.
Right.
Okay, and we know how to survive. Women have been surviving for centuries. So I think the way to certainly combat it is that we have to stay in the fight, and we have to be in the community, and we have to make sure that we mobilize and be in a position so that we can tell our stories and share with the rest of the world and our communities. This is where we've come from, and we're here together so that we can move ourselves forward.
That's excellent.
I love that.
I do too.
I was going to say, sometimes I think the time, much like I was saying on an individual level about kind of registering and then marshaling your resources and using your leverage, I think the same can be true culturally.
Yes.
And what I mean by that, when I started Every Woman Studios, it was sort of the moment where culturally that was a good thing culturally. Oh, women's stories, this is great for like a hot second, right?
Right.
Women's stories, we love it for a hot second. And then it was like, no. So my approach to that is we just telling good stories. It's what we're still going to do what we're doing, how we sell it, and how we build our leverage as selling ideas, and how we get people to buy them and distribute and so forth, may be different based on what the time requires, but we're still telling the stories. And for me, that's all that matters, right? Because telling a story about the women's soccer team, or Alicia Keys' music program, or the latest film I'm making is about women's sexual health. Like, these are stories that need to be told. If not us telling them, who else will?
Yeah, that's right.
But the way in which we get them sold, financed, made, like we might flex different muscles at different times to make that happen, just like you're saying. So I agree with you wholeheartedly about that. So I think it's kind of up to us to do our thing.
We have to do it.
Yeah.
Because
If
nobody
not
else
us,
is
then
going to
who?
do it.
Right? We've been doing it for a long time. We need to just keep doing it. And writing great stories.
Right.
Yeah, I don't
where
think
it
it's.
starts.
I don't think it's gonna roll back. I mean, I think we have. When I go out on meetings, I mean, women are in the power seats, you know, and it's great, you know. So I feel like, you know, how do you pull that back? We have planted our flag in every industry, and you know, I just don't see where, you know, the brain power, the talent, the ability that is out there, you know, it's necessary. And I think, you know, to try to rein that in would be doing harm to the companies, and, you know, I think we're essential. Listen, you know.
You mentioned mobilizing and you know, coming together as women and being business owners, being leaders. Can you tell me, did you all have mentors, female mentors, or mentors at all? Did you? Some of the best mentors might be a male mentor who taught you how to be, because they have the opportunity, so they taught you what they needed to teach you. But did you have a female mentor, and are you a mentor to other women?
I am absolutely a mentor to other women, to other black and brown folks, because you have to give back. You know, you give back what you receive. And it's been important to me in my life. I did not have a mentor.
You did not.
Growing up. If I had to say there was a mentor growing up and in my career, it would have to be my mother. Because she laid that foundation for my sister and I. A religious foundation, and making sure that we had a good education, busing us across town to better schools, and just watching her work and how hard she worked, instilling that work ethic in us, so that we could get out of that disadvantaged neighborhood, and grow up. So that we could be professionals and women that people would be proud of, and that she would be proud of. But in my later years as an entrepreneur, I did have a mentor coming out of television, someone who had owned a television station owner, who I grabbed onto him and learned everything that I could from him. And now in my professional life, I continue to mentor young people, women in startup companies. I've created programs for young aspiring journalists, teaching and training them how to produce television, films within organizations like the Washington Association of Black Journalists and the National Association of Black Journalists. So yes, I continue to be a mentor. And now some of those young people are are just as old as I was then.
What happens?
And then you just keep it going.
Keep it going.
You have to. You have to.
Yeah, I love that. I would say that I had male and female mentors at Discovery in particular. I think early on. Interestingly, though, one of my biggest mentors, the sort of first woman, highest up woman at Discovery, who I looked at and thought, wow, she's just badass, you know, she was the general counsel. And she ended up having her first child very late. And I remember rolling into her room, and she had this, like, chair that she would just fling back, you know, and she would just commandeer over all these people. But there was a moment she said to me, which is very interesting. I remember her saying, like, in some ways I was aiming at one point maybe too low for myself. And she said to me, I'll never forget that, she was like, Abby, what are you doing? She was like, you could be a Supreme Court justice. And I was like, huh? It's like, I need to, wow, she thinks I could be a Supreme Court justice. I at least should go for director.
Right.
So that was awesome. And I would say, interesting, one of my observations when I was saying that I didn't really register the glass ceiling, when I started this production company, it's funny, but I never really thought, in the unscripted world at least, there weren't many women running these companies, the production companies. There were more women on the in the executive ranks, especially in cable. Mm-hmm. Cable was a place where women of color, I had all kinds of different bosses. But for whatever reason, the production community of unscripted and docs was primarily men. Mm-hmm. And so when I became a head of a company and then, successful company and sold it and all that stuff, it was then that I thought to myself and really thought about the ecosystem of ideas and how that happens. Mm-hmm. And it's really through production companies in the unscripted side that the ideas get to networks and get made, because you develop them at the production company side, you pitch them, etc. So my goal, which was how can we get different and more varied kinds of content, I thought, well, we have to have more women doing what I'm doing, which is running these companies.
Right.
So I started a accelerator that basically does mentorship. So it's a big part of what I do, is we run this program that I recruit in female heads of production companies or heads of development of production companies or studios, and then they mentor women creators who have projects that are have great potential, but they don't have experience or they don't have access, because it's a very gay-kept business. Mm-hmm. They can't even get a meeting, Mm-hmm. And then so they mentor those projects, and then we get them in front of buyers, and we've had success in a couple instances of getting the projects made. So that's, we call it Propel. It's in partnership with Real Screen, which is sort of our industry trade for unscripted. So I started that expressly because there's like a pinch point in the business for women at that level for whatever reason. And I think it's because women think that it's very hard, the idea of starting their own business, especially if they're creatives, maybe they're a showrunner or a producer on the unscripted side. The thought of, starting my own business and the financial aspect and all of that, counterintuitively though, I have found that it's afforded me a lot more flexibility, a lot more agency in my own life. I've actually had much more success than if I had stayed at a network. So it's interesting, counterintuitive, but I tell people actually be your own boss. That's the best way you can have, especially if you want to be a mother and a boss. It's better to have your own business, do it your way, than working for somebody else. Anyway, that was a very long-winded answer, but that's what I
needed to hear.
Mentorship helped me with that.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any entrepreneurial mentor in terms of another woman who had gone out and started one of these companies.
Again, this is that trailblazing piece.
Right.
That's my point.
Which is why I started this mentorship program that I run. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. What about you, Megan?
I, starting out, I would say, rather than having like mentors who were, much further along, I didn't really have access to that. But what I did have access to were kind of ways to build community with people who were kind of around what I was doing. So the Virginia Screenwriting Forum sought that out, and so it was like a community of people mentoring each other. There was not like anybody who had like all this knowledge, but we were all kind of helping each other, and have always had writing groups that serve that function for me. We are constantly helping each other out and giving notes and kind of mentoring each other in the best way that we can. And then I did have the good fortune of shadowing Leslie Linka Glatter on Homeland for 3 weeks, and that was amazing. And she said, "Oh my gosh, Megan, you have a chance to take a directing class by Joan Darling. Get the hell up to DC and do that." And so I did. And that was an amazing experience. So yeah, I've kind of sought those things, when they arise.
Oh, that's wonderful. Joan, are you a mentor? And did you have a mentor?
Yes, I'm an overwhelmed mentor. But I just want to say one thing that, and I don't know, it's never been really talked about, but Norman Lear was amazing. Because back at the beginning, when he decided to do this soap opera, he wanted women writers. He went looking for them, found Trina Silverman. I came in to ask him about doing performing a 90-minute movie on the life of Golda Meir. And when I finished telling him about it, he said to me, "How would you like to be a director?" I said, "I don't know anything about it." He said, "I think that's what you are." And then he spent every day with me for almost 8 weeks casting that show. But if someone came in that he wanted that I didn't feel I could do the best job with, he would replace them, which is astounding.
Yeah.
When it came time to rehearse the show, he left town for 2 weeks. So I did what I would do, which is I made a show I loved and that my cast loved and everybody loved. And when he came back, he truly almost fell off his chair. He loved it so much. And then he brought in the person to do the camera work, about which I only knew as an actress, which is make sure they place the camera above your nose. That was instead of my terminology. And Norman came up to me at the end of the day and said, "What do you think of this camera work?" And I said, "I don't really know anything about it." I said, "But I'm a terrible director, or this is really bad." And he said, "It is really bad. I want you to do the camera work." And this is where my energy to be in the game takes over. Is I said, "I don't know anything about it, but if the way you should shoot this scene is first you pick her up coming in the front door, the 2 of them, 3 of them, and then when they get settled, you leave one of the 3 of them for the coffee stuff, and then when she tells the joke, you're on her, and then you go back to the 2 people and then to the 3. And he stared at me and he said, "You're doing the camera work." So I did the camera work, and then at the end of it, he said, "I want you to edit the film."
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I mean, it brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah.
He says, "I want you to edit the film because that's where you're really going to learn to be a director."
Wow.
And he wasn't even in the room. I edited the film the way I thought it should be edited. He made very few changes. And then the really interesting thing was he had 4 hit television shows on the air at the time. And when I came back to talk to him about doing it, and I think this is a center of sort of what all of us are talking about, is there's an ethical center to each of us that has respect for art, respect for learning, respect for things that transcends people being nasty. And so I feel like someone like Norman, he also found Virginia Carter. He went and raided the space program, and Virginia Carter, a producer. So all of the people that I know who were his mentors said he was just an amazing, amazing person in that regard, certainly for me.
Yes.
And, I don't, the opportunity to learn it and do it, and not be told how to do it was just fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And as far as myself is concerned, I've been teaching since I was 18. I wanted to be the best actress in the world. Came in second, no, that's not. But I really did, and I really studied and found teachers and this and that and the other thing. And I started a class when I was in college so we could figure out what acting should be. And then when I went to New York, everybody wanted to keep studying with me. But there's something in my heart and soul that when I learn something that's really cool, all I want to do is tell somebody about it. See how they do this, it's so cool. One of my greatest joys in life is passing that feeling onto someone and helping them find their way to being independent and proud of their work. My mottos for my students are never be ashamed to show your work. There's always some dumb bastard who'll like it.
I love that.
And I realized that it was with the work itself, or with anything, that you really learn what the thing is, and you don't need anybody to tell you that it will work or it won't work. You're not afraid to do it and it doesn't work, so you do something else. And you know, I listen to you guys, and you're in the part of the business that, you know, I don't know how I would be. I'd be funny in the meetings, but you know, but I do think that anything that I really want to do, I can do. But my major motto to everybody is, the only thing that matters is the quality of the experience you have doing the work.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that matters. You could make a great movie, it'll be a big flop. You could make a terrible movie, it'll be a big hit. But the bottom line, and especially for us, because we've been kind of held back, you know, is that's all that's left when you get to 90. Is the quality of the experiences that you provide for the people who work with you and for you.
Yeah.
And the quality of the experience that you provide for yourself as an artist.
Yes.
And one of the things I always love to say, you know, when somebody comes and tells you this, oh, it's got to be like this. You know, when in a movie about Van Gogh, one of the characters goes up to, what's his name, Bill? Oh, my encyclopedia has his here. Hey, Bill. Oh.
Kirk Douglas?
What's the name of the painter? Kirk Douglas played Van Gogh, and the other, what was his name? Flat. Now what? Gauguin. There's a moment in that movie where somebody says to Gauguin, the reason why your pictures don't work is because, you know, everything you paint is flat.
Yeah.
And Gauguin turns to him and says, flat. That's the way I like it. I think that really, if you have a kindness toward people so that you don't have to beat them up to educate them, and you know in your heart and soul that if you're going to be an artist or a creator of spaces for people to work, what you really want to do is create spaces of joy and wonderment and mistakes and funny moments that you never thought would happen.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's how I always felt it should be. So all of my students, I hear from people from 20 years ago. I got a letter from a woman who had just won an award as a singer. She said she'd been singing for 40 years in clubs, but she came to my class and she was very frightened to sing. And she finally did sing for us. And when she said, what I said to her was, that was as good as you had hoped it would be.
Oh.
And from that moment on, she just flew.
Yeah.
Yep, Jan.
Right.
And, you know,
Thank you, Jen.
but that's my which gives me an opportunity to spread my my preferences of being honest, being fun, that anybody who works for you as an artist is a member of your family.
Yes. Yes.
And what Daniel said about they had worked with me before, they did everything everywhere, and people said, well, what did she say? And they said, well, she said, you're giving a party.
Yeah.
Everybody's having a good time.
Yeah. Yep. So I want to leave some room for our audience to be able to ask questions. I have one final question for you after our audience asks questions, but I want to turn it to you. I know we've talked about resilience and having people that believe in you, believing in yourself, having mentors, being a mentor, having somebody to partner with you to do the hard thing. And hopefully you've all heard those messages because I think they're so important. But what questions do you have for these trailblazers? And if you do have one, raise your hand, and you have to speak loudly so that the microphone will capture it. Yes, Mira.
I have a question for everyone on the panel. When you are in those low moments of self-doubt, is there a mantra or some thought or philosophy that you turn to that helps to keep you going?
Ooh, I love this question.
I had a
Joan does too.
say to me,
Yeah, go for it.
what are they gonna do? Take away your stripe?
Nice.
Okay.
I was gonna say mine is oh well, which is like, it's kind of like, oh well, next.
Yeah.
I mean, I was describing to someone in this business, it's true. There's no correlation between, this is why you know it's art. There's no correlation with how good it is or how much you love it and how it's received commercially by an audience.
Yep.
And as long as I've been in the business and as good as I think I am at predicting, and I think I'm pretty good, I'm still not perfect. And there are things that I love and people are like, meh. And then some of the things you're like, this is a piece of crap, and they're like, I love it, you know? So I think sometimes if you invest, I've learned, if you invest too much in the outcomes, that's why oh well is mine, because it's a kind of like dust off. It's not putting too much in that, which is, in our business, there's constantly setbacks, you know? I love this idea, pass. I mean, I've had so many ideas passed on where people don't want to make it, and people that work in that job have to be a certain kind of person, because you have to be a kind of oh well person to get a million no's and keep going, you know. So that's mine.
I always have said, you're only as good as your last story. For me, it is that inner peace. I've always had this unshakable faith. So I know I can be courageous about whatever it is that I have to do next, and be excellent at what I do, because that's the way I was taught, that's the way I was brought up, and I'm going to just do that in any way that I can, whether it's personally, professionally, or spiritually.
That's the only thing you can control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And mine's similar. Mine is like probably the less mature. But mine is, I'll show them. You know?
I love that one. Yeah, I have that too. That competitive edge. Yeah. And I will say, Mira, I have a box under my bed. It's a bin, a crate of different things that I've been proud of, that I've gotten to participate in. My portfolio, basically, but articles in the news, or a packet I created, or a script, or something, and I keep it under my bed, and at my lowest moments, I pull it out and I look through it and I say, the same person who did this is still you. And it helps me remember that this is still who I am, even on those down days.
Love that.
And I love my bin. I mean, there's some real, I don't have
I
to.
need a bin.
No, we do need a
need a
band.
band.
Yeah.
You know, because what I also say too, it's in my pain that I find my power.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, I like that too.
Yeah. Oh, the best
That's when I
stories.
become
Yeah.
even more forceful
Yeah.
in the things that I do.
Well, we have all, our stories are all
That's
evidence of that.
Exactly.
That might be my new mantra.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. It's in my pain
After
that I
today.
Right. Right. Allison, did you have a question?
Mine was similar to that. As you were pushing through and as you were having to make these adjustments in your trajectory, what was your machete? Like, what was your tool? But I think it's kind of the same. It's a mindset. But how were you able to not give up? Or how were you able to redesign, you know?
I mean, one thing, I love, Joan, what you said about joy, because, and by the way, I could listen to you speak all day. I feel like I'm in class. I'm like, I want to be a student. But I really do think that there is something around, like when I decided to leave Discovery to start Half Yard Productions, which was looking back, I kind of can't believe I did it, but I had my college roommates happened to be in town at the time, and I was telling them, because it was a crisis. So like for me at the time, it was a crisis. You know, I'd just come back, I'd had this baby, I was already anxious about going back to work, and they were saying I couldn't have the schedule. And I'd plotted out my whole life. I was going to do this job. I was promised to be a general manager. I was like moving up the ladder, and it was like, wait a minute, none of this appeals to me anymore. You know, so it was a crisis. And I was like, well, there is this one idea. And I started talking about it. And they said, that's what you need to do. Look at your face. You have joy. You're so excited about that. It's coming, you know, and that was the way. So I always think for myself, my machete is following my kind of flow, my mojo. It's like, what makes me happy? It sounds so simple, but what sparks joy? That is where I go. And occasionally there are moments in my life where I have clarity around that. Sometimes it's a big muddle. That's okay. I've learned to be patient because those moments for me come, and then I've learned to trust that intuition to follow the thing that is sparking the joy for me. That's how I move.
Yeah, and mine is, and I mentioned this earlier, is my unshakable faith. And that was just built on my strong religious foundation. No weapon will be formed against me. None.
A giant lesson for me was I was driving to the studio to shoot Chuckles, and I was so scared that I pulled, it was the shooting day, I pulled, even though I knew what the show was, I pulled my car over to the side of the road, and I sat there and I said to myself, you lived through your childhood, you can live through this.
Right?
And then, you know, you think about the things that you struggled with, and you're still here.
Yeah.
You're still here, and you're still doing the stuff, and sometimes it's easy to do it, sometimes it's hard to do it, and sometimes you do something you love, and nobody loves it except you, and then you keep showing it to your dinner guests, you know. But the bottom line is, I think those of us who have chosen to be artists, especially in this very complicated field that reaches so many people, we're blessed.
Yes.
However,
We are
yes, we're blessed.
Yes. Any other, yes, push back here.
Hi. Sorry, recovering from that last answer, but what would you say, based on your experiences, would be the next step that women need to take in not just protecting the gains, but continuing to overcome? Is there something?
That's a toughie.
That is a real toughie.
Global domination. I don't know. I mean, I think
go back
it's,
to Steph,
yeah.
Which is never be ashamed to show your work. There's always some dumb bastard who might get it.
By the way, my daughter is a senior in high school and writing her application essays, and I'm bringing that home and telling her.
Right?
Because that's like the best advice.
That's the best.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. That, you know, I see that, we see it all the time, right? There'll be a film project, and we're like, how did that get made?
Yes.
What Joan just said. There's always some. So, you know, I agree.
Might as well be you.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes. Can you stand up for us? Because we can barely see you back there. Sorry.
I don't know if it's gonna help.
Yes.
So with all of the transitions you've been through, and this has just been fantastic. I'm a business owner, and my mentor is sitting up there. What have been some of your missed opportunities? What would you say are some of the opportunities that you look back now and say that you missed?
Wow.
Well, I had one, it was sort of a pre the beginning of YouTube. We were doing at Half Yard Say Yes to the Dress, and I had the idea to do basically kind of a wedding YouTube vertical, and the people that bought our business were like, no, that's not a good idea. I wish I'd just done it found a way to do it anyway, because I think it would be very successful. That's a very specific thing, but it's kind of like not following up on a gut and letting somebody else tell me the terms of success. If I were to put it in a broader, following my gut and not just listening to somebody else.
I would have to say that my missed opportunity was selling my business 3 years ago. When I look at the political climate now, when I look at, all of the layoffs in the federal government, we've been a federal government contractor for all of our years in business. There's always been a piece of that work that's been there for us. So, so when you start now, when I start looking at an exit plan, I got to look at it differently. Yeah. Whereas I was in a different place 3 years ago, but what I looked at is I said, if I can get this much now, I can imagine what I could do in another 2 or 3 or 5 years, because so many of those prospects were, you then have to come and earn out and work in the business. Well, if I have to do that, I might as well continue to work in my own business and then sell it outright. So if there was a missed opportunity, looking at where we are now, because here I am again, working harder than ever, as I did with the 95 shutdown, 9/11, 2008 recession, COVID. And if we can, if we can continue to survive all of that, we could survive this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you will.
I think I have many missed opportunities, and I think they're all rooted in fear. All when I wasn't bold enough. I didn't have enough confidence to really pitch myself. There was one project I had been on for Bad Robot, and a lot of fancy directors had been attached to this particular script over the course of several years, and the director that we had on fell out, and my agent was like, pitch yourself, Megan. Pitch yourself to direct it. Oh, wow. And I didn't. I was like, these directors are freaking amazing. Like, who am I? And I didn't. And
you needed to call Joan.
I know. So I think it's just the times when I wasn't bold enough, and didn't just take a flyer, man, and just try.
I will say, building on that, is that sometimes, I was thinking about this with your question, that I think that sometimes, I don't know if it's a women thing, but I think it is, if people have done research, I've heard this written about, that sometimes we can say no inside our own voices before we ask someone else. And I remember when I heard that, someone presented a paper I heard at a conference, and I recognized that within myself. In other words, it's like you're saying no to the idea yourself before you even go to somebody else, which is, of course, fear and not being brave enough.
Yeah.
But I think if we can all not do that, right? Yeah. It's like, let somebody else say no. Don't say no yourself, right? Say yes to yourself. Of course, it also makes you a more believable, if you're your own best proponent, you believe in this idea so much, so I think that really resonated with me, what you said, because I have also done that. And I still do it. And I'm very experienced, AKA old. But I think it's a constant battle to get yourself up for believing in yourself, sometimes, or your idea.
Totally.
Yes, we have another question.
So we talked about protecting the gains, and we've talked about, we have to continue. So I think about preserving the gains, right? So with history being erased before our very eyes on something that we've gotten very accustomed to, the internet, have you made any plans to archive what you have, your research, in ways other than just maybe keeping it on a file on your computer? Or you understand what I'm saying? Because if that disappears, then what do we have? And with regard to doing research for a project, what's out here now what we're looking for now may have been there a few months ago, and now it's not. So we're losing that. So is there, I wonder if there's something you know, that we can do to create something to protect and preserve what has already happened so that we can move forward to what will be. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I do think one thing I've come later in my career to see the value of is owning your own product.
Oh, yes.
So, you know, when my first business, we didn't own anything. Like, our business was making, right? So it was a volume business. Our business was making just a lot of shows, and that's what our business was, and that's how we made money. My current business, though, is about financing films in such a way that we can own the rights to the projects explicitly, because a lot of the stories that I'm wanting to tell are ones that might not have been told otherwise. And I realize that if I don't control the rights, then the marketing, the conversations about it, all that stuff I care about controlling, because that's what I care about. It's like moving the culture needle. So it's a different way of answering that question, which is, if we as women can find ways to own what we create, I think that is the way to protect it. It's hard to do, but it is doable. So that's kind of my own act of resistance in my little tiny sphere, is owning the projects, and therefore owning the way in which they're disseminated and saved, and et cetera, you know.
And I would agree with Abby in that, and I think the distribution part, the dissemination part, is to get it into that work into places in your community, like your libraries, so that history continues.
It's a very good point.
You know, with future generations.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
You know, one of the things that I was at an event earlier this week, because I was part of this culmination of this historical archives called the History Makers, and it's about 3,500 plus African Americans throughout this country, including folks like Colin Powell and President Barack Obama and little old me and some other folks, okay? But what is happening with that, those archives that they have been digitally produced now. They own them. They've been digitally produced. They've had interviews with all of these 3,500 plus folks, and then they have put them in the National Archives. Well, that's going to be threatened, we know.
Right.
Okay, right? So now the Martin Luther King Jr. Library in DC is taking those digital archives, and other libraries and HBCUs across the country and other universities. So think about your universities, your HBCUs in particular. There are women's colleges, libraries, so that way you can preserve all of that work that you've had for all of these years.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Really great.
Yes. Okay, good. I was going to say, wait, you have a question? Okay. Wrap it up. All right. So if you don't have anything that you want to share, you don't have to, but everybody always wants to know what's next for you. So what's next for you? Is it just, I'm doing what I do, I run my company, I get it done, that's fine. But if there's something that you want to share with everyone, what's next for you?
Well, I'll do a very small what's next, and then maybe a bigger what's next. The small what's next, my next project is called The Pink Pill. It's about the search for female Viagra. So it's a story about women's sexual health and inequities in women's health research. It's an awesome story. Financed and produced by women, owning the rights, all the things I just said.
Love
So we're gonna,
that.
I'm very passionate about it. It's a story that needs to be
working
told.
with a woman named Sheila Feinberg. You may know she's a fantastic filmmaker, maker, and good writer. And she and I are doing a documentary together. And it's all about, we were so connected almost immediately in all of our ethics and everything else and senses of humor. And she said, well, let's shoot some film, we'll do a documentary. and it's turning out to be about the nature of real friendship connection. And you should all go see it when it comes out. And it was on, there was a section of it in the New York Times pieces that was called, I was about to quit my career and then I met Joan Darling. It's a good, charming piece.
That's awesome.
When's it coming out? Where can we see it?
It's not finished.
It's not finished.
Yeah, it's not finished yet,
Okay.
but the two of us together are really just wacky. It's so much fun because we deeply don't care about anything except how much fun we have. When we see in front of us what makes our relationship so special.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wonderful. You got another big share?
Oh, I'll pass.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll ask you after. Yes,
Oh,
Dr.
it's
Brooks.
For me, of course, it's an exit plan. Looking at what that exit plan may be. But I have a personal passion project that I've been working on now for about 5 years, and it's 80% done. There's some editing to do, but it's a documentary about a trailblazing African-American woman entrepreneur who was first a reporter and then a publisher of her own newspaper in Kansas City, Missouri, my hometown.
Yeah.
Lucille Bluford, who, by the way, her nephew is Guyon Bluford, the first black astronaut in space, who I also interviewed in this documentary. I've done a lot of shooting of it, but this documentary is based on a dissertation that I did for my Ph.D. at Howard University. So in 2015, I finished a Ph.D. 1 month short of my 59th birthday. That was 10 years ago. But then I got the idea to write a dissertation on this woman. And then a publisher came after me after I finished the program at Howard and said, hey, you have a book. So I've written a book that was nominated for an NAACP Image Award in 2019. Thank you so much. But I've done all of the shooting and writing and, and I have to do this in between running a business with employees. So that's a passion project that I would love to see finished. This woman was not only a trailblazing journalist, but is telling those stories from those black newspaper perspectives. She was in the civil rights movement, women's rights movement, and she was very well known throughout the country. So I would love to see that documentary come to fruition.
Love it. Wonderful. Love it.
I have a TV show that I'm currently pitching on, kind of in the midst of that. We will see what happens to.
Let us know. Let us know.
Yeah, and then a contained thriller set in a lesbian bar in Richmond, Virginia.
I want to thank all of you for being here, and I know that Tara's going to come up and say some closing remarks, but it has been my honor to sit and chat with you, and I could bring you over to my living room and we could just keep this going as far as I'm concerned, because this is just what I needed. It's just what I needed. I'm sure it's just what they needed as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. I would be here for another 15 hours, but it's kind of cold. So thank you all. It has been recorded. It will be on the WIFV YouTube channel, youtube.com/@womeninfilmvideo. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Give it a couple weeks. And we hope to see you at our next event. So check out our website, wif.org, or on our socials. And don't forget to tag us on the socials at WIF as in Frank, V as in Victor, DC. Thank you.